6:45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madavala, read by Sounditavam. State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapitiya says that the government will not promote liquor products by any means. Action will be taken to streamline the medical supplies process. Japanese MPs to promote closer bilateral ties with Sri Lanka. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs introduces a digital platform to follow up treaties and MOUs. Bus fares will be increased by 4% from tomorrow. Sri Lanka's overall rate of inflation dropped further to 4% for August. In foreign news, former Thai PM Takshin's prison sentence reduced to a year. In sports, the Asia Cup match between India and Pakistan will be played today in Pallekele. The State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapitiya says that the government will not promote liquor products by any means. Soft liquor licenses will only be issued for the places where there are tourist attractions. The State Minister made these comments addressing a press briefing held at the Ministry yesterday. Action will be taken to streamline the medical supplies process. Health Minister Kelly Rambukwala has instructed the National Medicines Regulatory Authority to increase the qualified suppliers. This will end the monopoly with regard to some medicines, and it will reduce the prices of those drugs. The minister also said that it will also help to control the unnecessary price hikes as well. A parliamentary delegation from Japan called on Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at Temple Trees yesterday to discuss further strengthening of bilateral cooperation and people-to-people relations between Japan and Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister welcomed the delegation and said that Japan has consistently assisted Sri Lanka in many spheres such as infrastructure development, energy, railways, health, education and youth skill development. The leader of the delegation of MPs, Nakanishi Yuzuke, who is a member of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Official Development Assistance, said Japan is a close friend of Sri Lanka and further assistance will be provided for speedy development. Referring to the potential for Sri Lankan youth for employment in Japan, he said that Japan could assist in youth development and education sectors. The Prime Minister said more and more Sri Lankan youth study the Japanese language. The delegation included MPs Imai Eriko and Ozawa Masahito, the Ambassador of Japan, Mizukoshi Hideki, and the Chief Research Officer of the Standing Committee on General Affairs, House of Councillors, Mingawa Kenishi. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs introduced a digital platform to coordinate and follow up the ongoing and forthcoming bilateral as well as multilateral treaties, agreements and memoranda of understanding with the interministerial stakeholders. The Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri, along with the State Minister of Foreign Affairs Taraka Balasuriya, launched this innovative digital follow-up mechanism recently. The objective underlying this initiative is to ensure rigorous follow-up, real-time monitoring and comprehensive performance evaluation pertaining to these treaties, agreements and MOUs which are signed between Sri Lanka and foreign nations. Senior officials nominated by 27 line ministries as focal points to follow up the implementation process of the said instruments attended the meeting. The Director General of the Foreign Ministry's Performance Review and Implementation Division, Amir Adwad, introduced the digital platform to the interministerial focal points by making a presentation highlighting the modalities of this follow-up mechanism. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The National Transport Commission has permitted to raise bus fares by 4%, effective from midnight tonight, following the recent fuel price increase. The price of a litre of diesel was increased by 35 rupees from August 31st night. The National Transport Commission claims that there will be no change in the minimum bus fare, which is currently 30 rupees. Accordingly, fares of luxury buses plying on highways will also be increased in relation to this bus fare revision. The Transport Minister has approved the new price revision for all 350 sections. The All Ireland United Containers Transport Owners Association said that container transportation charges will be increased by 5% with effect from midnight yesterday. Accordingly, transportation charges for import and export freight containers are set to increase as mentioned above. Association President Sanath Manjula said. Meanwhile, school children transportation charges would also be increased by 5% from midnight yesterday due to the recent diesel price hike, the spokesman for the All Ceylon School Children's Transport Service Association said. The Department of Census and Statistics said that Sri Lanka's overall rate of inflation as measured by the Colombo Consumer Price Index dropped further to 4% for August 2023. This was at 6.3% in July 2023. It added that the food inflation decreased to minus 4.8% in August 2023 from minus 1.4% in July 2023. The CCPI for all items for the month of August 2023 was 190.1 and it records a decrease of 0.1 index points, that is 0.02 percentage change compared to the month of July 2023 on an expenditure value basis for which the index was 190.2. This represents a decrease of expenditure value by 39.08 rupees in the market basket. And with that we conclude local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
A diplomatic briefing was convened at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the Colombo-based Diplomatic Corps on current developments related to the draft anti-terrorism bill yesterday. Minister of Justice, Prisons Affairs and Constitutional Reforms, Dr. Vijayadas Rajapaksa, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri addressing the briefing, and State Ministers of Justice Anuradha Jayaratne, Foreign Secretary Aruni Vijayawardena, Secretary Ministry of Justice, Prisons Affairs and Constitutional Reforms Vasanta Pereira, and the Additional Solicitor General Nerine Pulle were associated with the briefing and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight, the Minister of State for Power and Energy D.V. Chanaka announced that the Sapugaskanda oil refinery will suspend operations from September 18 to October 8th. The minister says the refinery will be closed for a maintenance activity to reset and restore the activation of catalysts in a petrol production unit. The minister further said that the fuel stocks and fuel orders required to maintain the fuel supply without shortage during that period have already been completed and came to you in Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
Say no more to moving and paying rent. Get a home loan from Commercial Bank at the lowest interest rate and get a home of your own.
Which Bhatta are you in now?
In Javatta, in my own house.
Making headlines this morning, former Thai PM Thakshin's prison sentence reduced to a year. US sees notable progress by Ukraine army in the south. Proud boy Dominic Pezzola, who stormed the US capital, jailed for 10 years. Thailand's king has reduced the 8-year prison sentence of former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra to a year. Mr. Thakshin, who returned home last month after 15 years of self-imposed exile, was immediately sent to jail. He was then moved to the luxury wing of a state hospital after complaining of heart problems. Mr. Thakshin had previously said the outstanding sentences over charges of corruption and abuse of power were politically motivated. Deposed by a military coup in 2006, Mr. Thakshin, one of Thailand's most influential and polarizing personalities, left the country 2 years later to avoid a prison sentence. His return on 22nd August was assumed to be part of a wider political deal, and it was one that was meant to bring his popular Pheu Thai party together with its one-time adversaries in a compromise government. Ukraine's forces have made notable progress in their push against heavily fortified Russian positions in the south, the U.S. government says. White House security spokesman John Kirby said those gains were made in the past 72 hours south of Zaporizhia. Ukraine's foreign minister Dmytro Kuleba told CNN that Kyiv's forces were advancing, but it's a tough fight. Russia claims to have taken strategic heights near the city of Kupiansk in the northeastern Ukraine. None of the claims have been independently verified. Mr. Kirby said Kyiv itself had admitted that the push in the south, aimed at splitting the Russian land border to Crimea, was going slower than they had hoped. A Proud boy who led the U.S. Capitol riot by smashing his way into the complex with a police shield before he filmed himself puffing a celebratory cigar has been sentenced to 10 years in prison. Dominic Pezzola, a 46-year-old former U.S. Marine, fought with officers during the raid on Congress on 6 January 2021. He was convicted of assaulting police and in obstructing an official proceeding. Another Proud Boy, Ethan Nordin, faces sentencing on a more serious seditious conspiracy charge on Friday. A selfie video taken on the day of the riot shows Pezzola smoking what he described as a victory cigar in the Capitol building. That concludes World News.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
This message is for all the kids between the ages of 4 and 16 who love to draw. Commercial Bank's Arunalu Sittam is back once again. This time, the competition is also open to Sri Lankan kids currently living abroad. First, second and third place prizes will be awarded along with special merit and merit certificates. For more information, visit the Commercial Bank website. We have so many prizes to be won.
Development News is brought to you by
Job opportunities for well-experienced housemaids and home cooks in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait for ages 40 to 58 years. Salary 125,000 rupees. Contact 037 7500 500.
The Sri Lanka Navy, in accordance with naval traditions, welcomed the Indian naval ship INS Delhi, which arrived at the port of Colombo on a formal visit yesterday. The INS Delhi is a 163.2-meter long destroyer manned by a crew of 450, and the ship is commanded by Captain Abhishek Kumar. Following arrival, the commanding officer of the ship called on the commander, Western Naval Area, Rear Admiral Suresh De Silva, at the Western Naval Command Headquarters. That came to you in Development News.
Job opportunities for women from Deshakti Lanka in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Oman. Housemaids and home cooks in Saudi Arabia, ages 40 to 58 years. Arabic speaking and well experienced home cooks. Salary 125,000 rupees. Interviews are now on with foreign agents. You can travel overseas free of charge now. Branches Colombo, Kurunegala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 0377 500 500. Deshakti Lanka Foreign Employment Agency.
On to sports news, the Asia Cup match between India and Pakistan will be played today in Pallekele. The match is scheduled to start at 3:15 p.m. Pakistan will be going into their final Group A match of the Asia Cup with the same side that beat Nepal in Multan on Wednesday. It is the second time Pakistan have opted to name their lineup a day early, a practice that is set to continue throughout the tournament. However, with rain around and significant chances of a curtailed game, the Asia Cup's official hosts retain the option of making changes up until the toss. That's sports news. We take a look at business news next.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyamata set wenna as wahagena dakapugina habe karanna youth ekata niyamata set wenna friendship ekamenna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The sixth round of the Sri Lanka-Thailand Free Trade Agreement negotiations was held recently in Bangkok, Thailand. During the negotiations, meetings of 7 working groups were held, namely trade in goods, trade in services, rules of origin, technical barriers to trade, trade remedies, investment and legal and institutional issues, and carried out successful discussions. That's business news. Economic news up next.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyamata set wenna as wahagena dakapugina habe karanna youth ekata niyamata set wenna friendship ekamenna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news, the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has decided to revoke the license of Bimput Finance PLC, a listed financial company. In a statement, the central bank said Bimput Finance PLC, a licensed finance company under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011 FBA, has continuously been violating contravening provisions of the FBA, several general directions and rules that have been issued with a view to achieve the overall objective of financial system stability,